Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining Acacia Counseling and Wellness in our Wellness and Love webinar series. The webinar came together when we at Acacia wanted to find a new way to engage the community during these unprecedented times. Mental health will always be a priority to us, and this was one way we could continue providing resources, engagement, and opportunities to share wellness and love. Join us in the push for self-care and the enlightenment of mental health every week in June on YouTube Live. Today's guest is Relyfe. They will be providing us with self-reflective journaling. This session will be open for your questions and comments, so please use the chat feature on this webinar. We encourage your feedback and engagement. This webinar will be available on our YouTube channel following the session. Please subscribe to our channel to watch more of our videos and to participate in the rest of the webinars this June. Before we get started, we also wanted to introduce a few resources that we find valuable. Acacia is a part of the Minnesota community, and we also know that what's happening is affecting not just one city, but cities all over the world. If you are looking for ways to help and support, you can start here, but we encourage you to also do some research on your end, whether it's for Minneapolis or the community you are a part of. As a counseling company, we know that it will take everyone's effort to help heal from trauma, process the deep-rooted racism, discrimination, and murder of our Black and Brown communities, and to demand justice. We thank everyone who has contributed and are having dialogues, including our providers who are helping clients during this time. Lastly, if you feel that things are too heavy to bear right now, please use the crisis line. Thank you again for joining us today. We ask that you engage and participate as much as you can. I'm happy to introduce Relyfe.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming and joining Relyfe. Let's get started. So we're just going to introduce the people that we have on the call here today. So my name is Encore, and I have been with Relyfe for about a year, and I co-lead the team with Katya, and basically, what our responsibilities include are kind of overseeing our entire San Diego branch and looking at different responsibilities like marketing, videography, analytics, and etc. I am a recent UCSD alumni. I graduated in March, and I think we're doing this. My fun quarantine fact is that I have been cooking a lot more, and I've been using the channel Binging with Babish to guide me in not burning down my kitchen.
Nice. Hi, everyone. I'm Katya. As Ankur mentioned, I co-lead the team with him. I've been on the team this whole school year. It's been a great experience and just finished my third year. So gonna go into my final year this year. And then favorite quarantine activity so far has actually been reading, now that I have so much time and I've maxed out my Netflix shows, basically. Yeah, that's me.
Hey everyone, I'm Max. I'm a first year, or going to be a second year at UCSD. I joined the Relyfe team in March as a COO in training, and I'm also actually an intern at the Acacia La Jolla branch. And my quarantine activity is I've been trying to get better at music theory. So I've been trying to learn a little bit more on the piano and about music theory itself, because I'm going to be taking more music classes next year. So yeah. Cool. And so just to give you all a brief rundown of the agenda for today. So we're going to give you a little recap on Relyfe and what we're all about, and then tell you where our idea for this webinar originates from, and then actually do it, which is the journaling activity. We'll discuss. You're welcome to, pitch questions in the comments or tell us what you're thinking. and then we'll wrap up and get you all out of here. So just as a recap on what we're all about, our mission at Relyfe has always been to remind people that we're all human. And it started over a cup of coffee, actually. Our founders were having coffee one day, watching people walk by at UCSD, and they realized that every person has lived experiences and advice that they can give to other people. And in many cases, that advice could be helpful or even life-changing. And so our mission then was to create a platform for people to share any and all kinds of experiences, such as, stuttering, coming out, anxiety and depression, and all of that was in hopes of helping other people who are living through other similar struggles but don't know where or how to get the help that they need. And we do this through our online video format, in which anybody and everybody has an accessible space in which they can be vulnerable, honest, and open in order to reflect on themselves and their own experiences, as well as provide perspective to others in hopes of helping them out. And one of our main missions is to destigmatize the talk about mental health through talking about our experiences and cultivating an inclusive environment in which we all learn that our vulnerabilities really aren't our weaknesses, but instead our greatest strengths. And we all have more in common than we think. And we at Relyfe strive to open the door to conversations that help everybody see that and cultivate an environment in which people are open to talking about that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what we're all about.
So for today's activity, the self-reflection journaling exercise, we decided to model it off this concept, which comes from this book called The One Thing by Jay Papasan and Gary Keller. And basically the idea behind this book is that a lot of times in our day-to-day lives, we kind of feel overwhelmed by the amount of things that we have to do. And simply by not being able to clearly articulate to ourselves what our priorities are in any given day, we tend to focus or put our attention into those things that may be not as productive or not as necessarily helping us reach the outcomes that we desire. So the One Thing philosophy kind of asks you to work on self-reflecting and to really understand what is like the single most thing that's important to you in various aspects of your life. So this is a short summary of this philosophy. It is the best approach to getting what you want because it really simplifies all your different tasks, goals, and objectives to one crucial guiding principle. And it narrows your concentration to that one thing. And today we will all hopefully be writing down our one thing. And then lastly, it helps you take small steps to grow instead of necessarily taking giant leaps from the start, because a lot of times we set high goals for ourselves and we kind of rush in with a lot of excitement, energy, but then we tend to tire ourselves out just because we may not have necessarily chosen the right strategy.
So going from that one thing philosophy, here's our journal prompt. So it's, what's one thing you can do this month such that by doing it, everything will be easier or unnecessary? So to break it down, like Ankur said, the whole point is to narrow down your focus into just one thing. There may be multiple things you can think of, but the whole point is just this one thing. It's as simple as one thing you can do. And then we're also giving you a time frame this month. So think of something that you can reasonably achieve in this month, but something that's also challenging to you. And this one thing will make everything a little bit easier for you or unnecessary. And so on the next slide, just to give you guys a little bit more context, the question can focus on different aspects of your life. So you can think of one thing either in your physical life, spiritual, business or career related, financial, or also personal relationships. So to start with the prompt, we want you guys to think of a question first that you want to answer. So these are just a few examples. So if you're thinking about your physical life, your question could be, what's the one thing I can do to ensure that I exercise? Or financial, the last one, what's the one thing I can do to eliminate my credit card debt? So we'll give you guys a few moments to think about this and think of your question first, and then you can start to answer the journal prompt.
And let us know if you have any questions at all. If you have any doubts, concerns, if you don't understand the question, we're happy to help out. Okay, awesome. So we got a response from Madison. It says, Madison's question is, what's one thing I can do to be successful starting my graduate program? That's great. Super solid questions focused on Madison's career goals. And it helps you kind of like narrow down your answer, which we will be getting towards. So thank you, Madison, for putting that in.
Ankur, could you go back one slide to the journal prompt so that people can see?
Sure.
And so we have another question here from Danielle. What's one thing I can do to make time each day to be out in nature? Perfect.
All right, we'll give maybe a couple more moments, and then we'll keep moving forward. All right, shall we continue?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. Clarify if I'm supposed to move to the next slide. Is that a yes? Potentially. Okay. All right, so we can talk about the goal now. So our next kind of understanding of this reflection is, once we've come up with our one thing question, we want to come up with our one thing answer. And when coming up with our answer, we, as Katya mentioned earlier, want to keep in mind this time frame of a month. And so we want to be able to set an answer for ourselves that's not too specific, not too broad, and something that we think would be challenging enough to accomplish in a month, but still achievable. So I can give you an example to start off with. So my one question or my one thing was what's one thing I can do to improve my skills in UI UX design this month, because that's something I'm trying to explore that as a career option. And so my 1 month answer was the one thing that I can do to improve those skills is to take an online user research course. So that answer is definitely like guiding me on a path, and I believe that the month time frame is a reasonable amount of time in order to complete that course, and it's also letting me set like different sort of steps I can take in order to reach that monthly goal. So if you all want to just take the time and really reflect on what is only one thing that you can do, and make sure you're focusing on just choosing a single sort of activity or a single sort of kind of broad guideline that would help you answer that one question that you came up with. And again, let us know if you're confused, if you have any questions. Maybe you can like even shoot like what you think your answer might be, but you're still not sure, and we can give you a little bit more clarity or some feedback. So we got a question from Corby. What's the one thing I can do to be a better ally for the trans and non-binary community? Love that question. Thanks for sharing, Corby. So we have Madison responding with that she would think it would be helpful to schedule out tasks in order to help her manage time balancing school and work. Definitely get that. And I would maybe suggest, Madison, so you've got like kind of your basic guideline for what you hope to have done by the month. So it's just kind of like new habit that you want to start to adopt. So maybe you can start to think a little bit more habit and kind of try to answer that question, like how would I be able, what specific thing that could I do that would actually help me balance my school and work time? How would I be able to, like, what habit can I instill to make sure that I do schedule out those tasks in a way that helps me reach my goal? Great. So Danielle, we have a response from you as well. So Danielle said, I think I can make time by waking up an hour earlier each day and getting outside to begin my day. Great. That's awesome. Like a first like guideline to making sure that you can follow up on your goal. Now, I would suggest maybe, again, reflecting on like how you would try to make sure that happens, or how maybe you would build up to waking up an hour early each day. And so you can think of the different sort of habits that you might put into place that will make sure that happens, whether that means sleeping a little bit earlier, or whether that means, and then if it is sleeping earlier, what different like maybe tasks or things that you should do or shouldn't do at night that maybe like keeps you from going to sleep on the right time or doesn't.
I think Encore also, after we go through this slide, it'll really help them frame their answer within like the specific time frame.
I agree. Sure. Yeah. So, all right, let's walk through this slide then, and then maybe they'll be able to give you a better perspective of how to kind of frame these answers. So basically, we want to set this one thing answer for our monthly goal, but then we kind of want to step back and ask ourselves deeper questions that make up that monthly goal. So the first one over here is, based on what you came up for what you want to accomplish in a month, what's one thing that you can do just this week so that you're on track to achieve your goal this month? So it's narrowing the time frame of the question a little bit more. It's getting you to think a little bit deeper, and also giving you like a more, I guess, a goal that you can like see nearer in the future. So it helps you kind of like understand how you're going to work your way up to that monthly goal. And then once you've kind of figured out what's the one thing that you could do this week, you could even go further and ask yourself, based on your weekly goal now that you have, what's the one thing that you could do today so that you're on track to achieve your goal this week, so that you're on track to achieve your goal this month? And we can even take it one step further and say, based on your goal today, what you want to get done today, what's the one thing that you could do right now after this webinar, so that you're on track to achieve your goal today, so that you're on track to achieve your goal this week, so that you're on track to achieve your goal this month. So this is kind of like the answer that makes up that whole question. Is you really kind of want to narrow down, you want to come up with a broad and not too specific monthly goal, and then you kind of want to really break it down by small activities that you think would actually lead up to you being able to achieve on that monthly goal. So we're going to give you some examples right now to help maybe make this a little bit, give you more clarity and maybe make it make more sense. So, this is the example that you see is the one that I came up with for this month. And again, my one thing question is, what's one thing I can do to improve my skills in design? And I decided that the one thing that I could do was to skill up by taking a course. And so I would look so my goal this month would be to complete an online Coursera course in user research. And then once I came up with my monthly goal, I took it a step back and said, okay, if my goal is to complete the course, what's one thing I could do this week? And basically I was like, in order for me to like, make sure I'm keeping up with necessary progress, I'd want to finish about 1/4 of the course. So 25% in order to keep track for me completing my monthly goal. So I was like, great, I got my weekly goal now. And then now that I have my weekly goal, I'm like, all right, so what can I do today to make sure that I can complete 25% of the course content by next Tuesday? And for me, that was completing chapter 1 of the syllabus. And I was like, okay, awesome. So today I'm going to complete chapter 1 of the syllabus. Now, what can I do right now to make sure that I today complete chapter 1 of the syllabus? I got the whole day ahead of me, and I know that chapter will probably take 2 to 3 hours in order to complete. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to my calendar, find a 2 to 3 hour time block, and block out that time to complete this. That pretty much ensures that I meet my goal today. And by meeting my goal today, that puts me on track to meet my goal this week. And by doing that, it makes sure that I'm able to complete that online user research course, and I'm able to overall improve my skills in design. And I can ask the same one thing question next month once I've completed my goal, and keep hopefully moving towards something that I've wanted to always do, but didn't necessarily have like a good guiding principle to get me there. Thanks for all the comments. Appreciate it. And so you can take the time now to reflect on it, and just kind of how I've laid it out in this format over here. You can just maybe enter a comment in your chat box with the question, and just like bullet point lists of your one thing for your month, your week, today, and right now. Cool, looks like we're getting some responses in. Thanks, Madison and Corby. Those both look great off the bat. I think they're pretty focused and specific, and they're still challenging to accomplish in the timeframes that they are, but achievable. So great job, those look awesome. All right, looks like we've got a response from Danielle and Jonathan as well. Those look great. And Jonathan, I see that you've got your monthly goal figured out. That's awesome. Okay, great, awesome. And you got your work up as well. Danielle, I'm looking at your weekly goal. Something I would suggest is um, to make it maybe a little bit more specific about what you mean about get up and get out. And for example, maybe you could be like, I want to go on this week. I want to make sure I go out on a hike, or I want to make sure I spend, you know, at least 4 days. I want to start my day like going on a walk. So just kind of like narrowing it down a little bit more so that you can actually kind of measure how much progress you're making through the week. But great suggestion for what you want to do today. Yeah, that's awesome, Danielle. Um, I like that a lot more, and I think it's definitely like narrow enough, and it's actually pretty specific. Um, so now what I think I would suggest is maybe like if that's your weekly goal, maybe identifying which day in the week, whether that's going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just based on when you think you're generally going to be able to actually complete that task. And then your today goal tomorrow can be, how do I make sure I, actually free up that time to go on that walk?
Okay,
Yeah,
she
much better.
also asked a great question. How do you see journaling helping with being more honest or vulnerable? I think that's a great question. Like honestly, for me, I don't journal that often. So when I do, it's really a time to step back. And for example, with this exercise, how we're setting goals and actually breaking it down into steps that you can reasonably take. It's like there's no reason you shouldn't be able to achieve your goal now if you have these little steps that you can do. Because too often I think I set goals that are probably like ideal goals or goals that may not be as attainable. But when I step back and look at this, it's really more honest, and it just like shows what I can potentially like actually do. And so I think journaling helps a lot with that. So thanks for the question.
Sorry about that. I was going to respond, but my computer and my phone fell. I agree. Same deal. And I also think that sometimes talking about things could be a lot more difficult in terms of, you're looking at somebody you're thinking, whereas when you're writing it down, it's a personal activity. You really have an opportunity to be honest with yourself and what you really want to do and how you really feel, because you're just talking to yourself from you to paper and paper back to you. And obviously this is less intensive than like a therapy session or anything, but I still think that writing down how you feel as a first step, if you feel like you can't get the actually talk and say how you feel, I think writing it down is a great first step too. articulate how you feel.
I agree as well. I actually started journaling, like I bought a journal book earlier this year in January, and um, I think like a hard part of journaling for me was like actually just sitting down and like, I don't know, thinking through things and being able to write them. It always kind of like overwhelmed me because I felt like I should, I don't know, write something profound, even though it was really just for myself. But one thing I did to like help make that easier was to kind of just go into it with like a really relaxed state of mind and say like, I don't care what I write, like even if I just write a couple of words, I just want to maybe express what's something that's been on my mind. And yeah, it's tremendously like helped me out. And even what I like to do is also intention journaling, or kind of thinking ahead if there's like an important event or if there's like an important trip that I'm making, just kind of writing down about like some of the concerns that I have about this, some of the kind of negative feelings or the fear and anxiety, and what I think I can do to kind of overcome those. And honestly, just really thinking about it before makes it so much easier when it actually comes to that moment to be able to like really just, you know, overcome those challenges that you think you might experience. Yeah, Corby, I agree. I like it is definitely like hard to like make a habit of it. Um, and I would kind of suggest like if you want to make it a daily habit, first it is to kind of identify when in the day do you think maybe you are in the kind of appropriate mindset to actually take time out to sit and do something. So maybe that's in the morning, just maybe because you're less tired. And so if it is in the morning, you can kind of use this one thing approach again, like kind of come up with a monthly goal about related to journaling. Like what's my monthly goal for? So it could be, so your question could be, what's one thing I can do to, you know, make journaling more of a habit this month? And it could be to, your monthly goal maybe could be to like write down 5 journal pieces. And then you kind of you work your way back through the weekly, daily goals, and then hopefully you're able to like find a way to make that happen. And even if it's only 5, I think sometimes we kind of get bogged down by like, oh, I want to do it every day. And if I skip a day, then, you know, why even continue, because I've lost on that goal. And that sometimes tends to hurt us more than help us. It's okay to, you know, maybe slip up or not actually have our goals go exactly to plan, rather than kind of getting bogged down on the fact that we didn't, you know, necessarily accomplish them first. All right. Do we want to move on to the next slide, Katya, Max?
Yeah.
Cool. So great. Thank you, everyone, for sharing.
So these are mine and Max's one things. We also wrote down our goals. Like Madison, my question was about grad school. So what's one thing I can do to better prepare for grad school, since I'm thinking of applying this coming fall? And so I figured I'll focus on the GRE and getting ready for that. So monthly, I want to score 300 on a GRE practice test. And to achieve that this week, I want to take 1 full practice test. And then today, I can go through 2 practice math sections. And then right now, I can carve out time in my calendar to sit down and study. So usually I thought when I would make these goals, I would always just say, oh, I guess this month I'll take a few practice tests, but then that's never really worked. So I feel like this will really help me, just breaking it down and making it more attainable.
Then mine was, what's the one thing I can do to get better at cooking? I feel like meals when I'm away from home are like the bagged sandwiches from Rogers, or so I feel that cooking is a necessity that I should pick up more than just putting mac and cheese in a pan or in a pot. So my monthly goal is to cook a full meal for my family. I'd like to cook chicken cordon bleu for my mom because that's her favorite dish. That's my monthly goal. My weekly goal is to cook 3 meals just for myself. So this week I want to and cook 3 of them that are relatively difficult so that I can test my innate skill for cooking. Today I want to cook 1 meal following a recipe, and then right now go online and make a list of recipes that I like, and then pick one that I can do tonight that I have the stuff for, and that I can cook for myself.
I love the work up towards the full meal for the family. It's like, I like that that's gonna be what you're gonna be doing in a month. And I feel like it's a solid kind of monthly goal to help you answer that question. Because cooking for other people, wow, that's scary. Really gets, and if you can't actually pull it off, you're going places.
I mean, at least it's my family, if they're gonna be honest, it's not gonna hurt that much. It'd be worse if it was, for a group of people, like if I was hosting people and they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is really bad." That'd be a lot worse.
Right. That could be your yearly goal.
That'll be December 31st. I'll do that for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Corby, I am heading to grad school. I'm entering my 4th year, so I'll be applying to grad school this year. Yeah. Great. Shall we wrap it up then?
Sure. So great. That's kind of the small exercise that we had for you all this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we're just curious to hopefully hear from you about how your monthly goals kind of went to plan. So feel free to reach out to us. Our email is contact@relyfe@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram at @relyfevideos, and just kind of share with us what your one thing question was, what your monthly goals were, and you can even check in with us now and kind of say hey, I just want to tell you now, so kind of make sure I hold myself accountable. And we'd love to see what progress you're making, and if you actually reach your monthly goals, and see actually if this exercise helped. So please reach out to us. And some other things about us, if you're just interested in the organization, you can check out our website. It's at www.relyfe.org. We have a ton of videos on all sorts of stories from students kind of discussing different sorts of challenges that they've had and how they've overcome them. And if you do have the time to watch some of those videos, and if you're really inspired by what we're kind of doing with Relyfe, you can share your own story with us by reaching out, and we can schedule a time to do an interview and feature your challenge. Or we have opened this new thing called Rehumanizer Stories, where it's an Instagram feed based model where we share your story through text and attach that with a picture. And finally, if you just want to kind of tune into different sorts of content we're putting out, Instagram and YouTube are our main channels. So please subscribe to us. Instagram's at Relyfe Videos, and YouTube, if you also search just Relyfe or Relyfe Videos, we should pop up.
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. I'm excited, not just for my goal, but for all of yours. They were awesome. So good luck on that.
Yeah, any final questions or thoughts? Thanks, Jonathan. Really appreciate that. Haven't had my coffee yet. Barely
Apparently, I have too much. I keep jittering all over the place and knocking things over twice now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again. And, we hope you have a great rest of your day. And today, hope you all, actually right after this call, hope you all write down your right now goal, and hopefully you finish your today goal as well. So yeah, thanks again for taking your Tuesday morning to spend this time with us. We really appreciate it. All right, take care.
Bye, all. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wellness and Love session. Our next session will be next Tuesday with a double feature. Karen, our MHA mental health advocate intern in Isla Vista at 9 a.m. and Maddie, a therapist in our Minneapolis office at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Subscribe to our channel to get updates. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. We will see you next time.